Last time we read the last section of Canto 3, the glory and the fall of life. We read about the fall of life, how the gracious, great winged angel of life poured all her beauty and her bliss, her splendor, her swiftness, poured all that into our material universe, hoping to fill a fair new world with joy. All her gifts she poured on us. But while the magic breath was on its way, before her gifts could reach our prisoned hearts, a dark, ambiguous presence questioned all. Sri Aurobindo told us that there's a secret will that covers itself up, dresses itself in night, night with a capital N, a dark cloak of darkness, unconsciousness, and even falsehood. And he says there's a reason for that. That will offers to the spirit, to our spirits, to the conscious being in us, the ordeal of the flesh. An ordeal is a challenge, a painful, terrible challenge. But there's something in the universe that offers that to each spirit. It is offered also to Savitri. We read about it in Canto 2 of Book 1. And there's a description of that one who puts this test in front of us. So one of Sri Aurobindo's disciples wrote to him and asked, who is this being? Who is it, this one who sets this ordeal to us? And Sri Aurobindo said, I deliberately haven't given any name. But if you like, you can think of that one as the Lord of evolution. It's the power that forces us, goads us to make progress so that we don't get stuck in any level, that we always have to go on further and further. But in the case of the descent of life into matter, what it meant was that this wonderful life force, which has its own laws of action, its swiftness and its beauty and its bliss and its endless variety, got swallowed up in matter and has to obey the laws of matter, which are inertia and unconsciousness and darkness. So then it meant that life here in our world has to feed death with everything that she creates. Death comes along and swallows up all her forms, all her movements. Nothing is permanent, no? And in the very beginning, when that first happened, it really looked as if life didn't exist at all, as if the whole universe was just an eternal death. And if at all anything happened to move or sprout or show itself, that was just a short-lived episode. No? Life seems like a myth of being that must forever cease. It can't go on living. It will be swallowed up eventually. And of course, that's what our physicists and cosmologists tell us about our universe. That, oh yes, it came from nothingness, and miraculously in the stars all these elements have been created, chemical elements that somehow have accidentally given a rise to life. And so now we're living in an episode where there is life in the material universe, but it won't last forever. This sun which warms our part of the universe will blow itself up and everything will be destroyed, and then it will go out and there'll be nothing left but darkness and emptiness again. That's what the scientists say. It's not at all what Sri Aurobindo says, but it's what the scientists say. So let's move on.
Shraddhavan,
Yeah.
this law of evolution,
Yes.
is it an Asuric force or?
No, it's not an Asuric force, but we tend to think of it as an Asuric force. If we think about the Bible story, and there's the serpent who came, there they were in paradise, and but that serpent came and tempted Eve and made her and Adam eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge. He's described in all the ancient scriptures as a devil, a demon. What he wanted to do was to destroy humanity.
Because I recently read that Mother said that they never put the people to test. That we have enough difficulties, they don't have to test the people.
Yes.
That's why when we said this Lord evolution is an audience.
Yes, of course he's the one. That's what Mother said when she was asked, was there ever an earthly paradise? She's given an interesting talk, I think, in the playground about that, or in the agenda. And she said, no, this is the evolutionary force which won't let us stop and be comfortable in our paradise. No? There's further to go. Eventually there will be a divine life on earth. But until everything has been turned again to light, we have to face all the darkness and the falsehood and the evil that's in the world. And now in this canto, The Kingdoms of the Little Life, Sri Aurobindo is going to speak about physical evolution, the evolution of forms in matter, living forms in matter. But we will just have a look at the first section or part of the first section. So I'll read a page or so. It's called The Kingdoms of the Little Life. A quivering, trepidant, uncertain world, born from that dolorous meeting and eclipse, appeared in the emptiness where her feet had trod. A quick obscurity, a seeking stir. There was a writhing of half-conscious force, hardly awakened from the inconscient sleep, tied to an instinct-driven ignorance, to find itself and find its hold on things. Inheritor of poverty and loss, assailed by memories that fled when seized, haunted by a forgotten, uplifting hope. It strove with a blindness as of groping hands to fill the aching and disastrous gap between earth pain and the bliss from which life fell. A world that ever seeks for something missed, hunts for the joy that earth has failed to keep. Too near to our gates, its unappeased unrest, for peace to live on the inert, solid globe. It has joined its hunger to the hunger of earth. It has given the law of craving to our lives. It has made our spirit's need a fathomless gulf. An influence entered mortal night and day. A shadow overcast the time-born race. In the troubled stream where leaps a blind heart pulse, and the nerve beat of feeling wakes in sense, dividing matter's sleep from conscious mind, there strayed a call that knew not why it came. A power beyond earth's scope has touched the earth. The repose that might have been can be no more. A formless yearning passions in man's heart. A cry is in his blood for happier things. Else could he roam on a free, sunlit soil with the childlike, pain-forgetting mind of beasts, or live happy, unmoved, like flowers and trees. The might that came upon the earth to bless has stayed on earth to suffer and aspire. The infant laugh that rang through time is hushed. Man's natural joy of life is overcast, and sorrow is his nurse of destiny. The animal's thoughtless joy is left behind. Care and reflection burden his daily walk. He has risen to greatness and to discontent. He is awake to the invisible, insatiate seeker. He has all to learn. He has exhausted now life's surface acts. His being's hidden realms remain to explore. He becomes a mind, he becomes a spirit and self. In his fragile tenement, he grows nature's lord. In him, matter wakes from its long, obscure trance. In him, earth feels the Godhead drawing near. So quite a lot of difficult words here. Martin, would you start?
Quivering, trepidant, uncertain world, born from that dolorous meeting and eclipse, appeared in the emptiness where her feet had dropped, a quick obscurity, a seeking stir.
Thank you. Quivering. Her leaves quiver in the breeze, no? But and quivering is a sign of life also. Quivering, it's trembling, shivering, shaking, and you may quiver with pain. Something makes you have a pain suddenly comes. And trepidant means fearful, not sure, unsure, and fearful. So this kingdom of the little life, or the first kingdom which he's going to tell us about, is a world which is quivering, trepidant, uncertain. That world has been born from the dolorous meeting of that gracious, great winged angel of life and our material world. And she has been eclipsed, like when the shadow of the earth falls on the sun as darkness, we can't see it. So like all the glory and swiftness and bliss of life has been eclipsed. And this world, this quivering, trepidant, uncertain world, appears in the emptiness where the feet of the life goddess have trodden. So the characteristic of that world, he says, is a quick obscurity, a seeking stir. Quick is a word that we're very familiar with, but it also has another meaning that we are not so familiar with. It means something that's alive as opposed to something that's dead or unborn. We speak about the quick and the dead, those who are living creatures and dead creatures or creatures who've never been born. So this is an obscurity, it's a shadowy world, but there's something alive, quivering alive in it. And it moves, there's a stir, it's looking for something, a seeking stir. Life is looking for something. Nidhish, yes.
There was a writhing of half-conscious force, hardly awakened from the inconscient sleep, tied to an instinct-driven ignorance, to find itself and find its hold on things.
Yes, writhing, it's what worms do. If you dig in your garden and you happen to touch a worm, it will writhe. So that's something that serpents do, worms and serpents, snakes, which are symbols of life energy, of energy anyway. No? So this writhing of force, it doesn't move straight, it wriggles around because it's half conscious only. It's hardly been woken up from that sleep of matter, of the inconscient. And that half conscious force, the consciousness that the half of consciousness that it has, is the ignorance. But this ignorance is being driven, guided, pushed by instinct. There's a difference between the instinct of living things, which guides them to do what they need to do without being fully aware of what they're doing, no? And our consciousness. So that's what we instinct. Instinct. It's a kind of consciousness which is half conscious. So that ignorance, that half conscious force is struggling to become conscious of itself, to find itself, and to find a way of controlling things around it, to find its hold on things. Dana.
Inheritor of poverty and loss, assailed by memories that fled when seized, haunted by a forgotten, uplifting hope, its soul of blindness, thus of broken hands, to feel the aching and the ghastly crack, between birth pain and the bliss from which life fell.
Yes. So that world, it has inherited poverty and loss. A relative dies and leaves you something. But in this case, that world which has fallen or is being born from a fall, from a blissful world of griefless life, it has inherited loss. It's lost something precious. It's become poor. But it's attacked, assailed. From all sides come memories. But somehow it can't seize those memories of that world that it has come from. The memories are there, but that ignorant consciousness can't catch hold of them. Memories that fled, they run away when it tries to seize it. No? It's haunted. It's as if there's a ghost hanging around it. A ghost of hope. But it's forgotten what that hope is, and that hope can't lift it up anymore. Still, that hope and those memories drive that world to struggle like somebody who's blind, who can only see with their hands, groping in the darkness to see something. It feels it wants to fill up. There's a huge gap, a terrible gap that's painful, an aching and disastrous gap between this experience on earth, this painful experience of waking up in matter. There's such a huge gap between that and those worlds of griefless life, griefless life that the goddess or the life force has fallen to. So that's a description of this quivering, trepidant, uncertain world that's been created by the meeting of life and matter. The first meeting. Joel.
A world that ever seeks for something missed, hunts for the joy that earth has failed to keep. Too near to our gates, its unappeased unrest. For peace to live on the inner solid globe, it has joined its hunger to the hunger of earth. It has given the law of craving to our lives. It has made our spirits need a fathomless yearning.
So that world that's been created, it's a subtle world, a typal world. It's very close to our own world. It's so near to the gates of our world that we can never have peace here. That world is full of unrest, uneasiness that can never be satisfied. It's always seeking. It's hunting for the joy that earth, the material universe, has failed to keep, that joy of the higher worlds of life. And because of that, peace can't live on this material world of ours, this inert, solid globe. It seems that earth itself has a kind of hunger because, as he told us a couple of cantos back, earth is carrying within itself memories and traces of all the higher realms. So within earth there's a tendency to wake up, to long. No? And this is an added longing and craving. It's joined that hunger of that lost life, joy, to the hunger of earth. And that is what has given the law of craving to our lives, that we are always dissatisfied, there's always something missing, and we can very often feel it intensely, this lack. It has made our spirits need a fathomless gulf. The spirit has willingly descended into matter, and it knows that it needs to evolve and realize higher and higher and higher possibilities. But that has because of this law of craving, that need has become like a bottomless hole that we can't measure its depth. It's so intense, can never be satisfied. Would you read, Fanny?
I'm not sure.
You got lost. Line 22. An influence.
An influence entered mortal night and day. A shadow overcast the time-worn face. In the troubled stream where leaps a blind heart pulse, and the nerve beats of feeling waits in sense, dividing matter's sleep from conscious mind. There strayed a chord that knew not why it came.
Yes. So this is our feeling. This is what is expressed in the Bible story, that something has gone wrong, that some alien influence has entered our night and day. He uses the word mortal. He reminds us that our night and day is governed by death. Here we are the race that has been born in time, but we are overshadowed. There's a shadow cast over us. And it's in the very substance of our bodies, in our blood, in this troubled stream where leaps a blind heart pulse. We are alive because our hearts are driving the blood around with the life energy in it. And the other thing that marks our life is this nerve beat that carries awareness, consciousness, senses. This is a realm which separates the unconsciousness of matter from conscious mind. It's the life realm, what we call the vital. So into this part of our being strays this call, this longing that doesn't know why it's there. We can't deal with it rationally. It's so intense, but it's unconscious. Tomoko, would you read?
A power beyond Earth's soil has touched the earth. The reproach that might have been can be no more. A formless yearning passions in man's heart. A cry is in his blood for happier things.
So all this, we have the feeling it's happened because something beyond earth, beyond matter, has entered. So the repose that might have been, the repose that seems to be there in the material universe as such, it's been disturbed. We can't go back to it, however much we would like to go back to that repose, that rest. There's this formless yearning. We don't even know what it is that we want. We think, if I have that, I will be satisfied, or this, or that, or the other. But it's not like that. The yearning can't be satisfied. A cry is in our blood for happier things. Things on earth are simply not good enough. Mosumi, will you read the next lines, please? Top of page.
Whence would he roam on a free sounding soil, with the childlike pain for waiting mind of beasts, or live happy, unmoved, like flowers and trees?
That's it, no? If there weren't this longing, if there weren't this law of craving, and we always think that we should be able to live like that, moving free on this lovely sunlit soil, roaming, like the animals, with the childlike, pain-forgetting mind of beasts. Mother has pointed this out, that it's not that animals don't feel pain, of course they do, but then it's immediately gone. And it's similar with young children. They may fall and scrape their knee, and then they weep and are terribly sad, but an hour later it's all forgotten, no? Forgetting pain. But we human beings, as adults, the pain piles up, and the longing gets more and more. We can't forget. So we can't live happy, unmoved, like the flowers and trees that just express their delight so beautifully. Mireille.
The night that came after the earth to bless has stayed on earth to suffer and to spy.
Continue.
The infant love that hung through time is hushed. Man's natural joy of life is overcast, and so is his nerves of destiny.
Sri Aurobindo often refers to this infant laugh or to this joy that was there at the very beginning of the creation. And we feel that it must have been there, but now we don't hear it. For human beings, that natural joy of life is overcast again, shadows. And sorrow is his nurse of destiny. It's sorrow that feeds us and guides us on our way. Alice.
The animal's thoughtless joy is left behind, care and reflection filling his daily walk. He has risen to witness and to discontent. He is awake to the invisible.
This is us. No? We've left that thoughtless joy of the animal behind. So we have to worry, and we have to think and plan, care and reflection. And it's a burden that we have to carry every day. Man is no longer like the plants and trees and the animals. He's risen to greatness, to something greater, but he's feeling discontent because of that awareness, because he is awake to the invisible. It's not only all these material forms. There's all our inner subjective world as well. Insatiate seeker, he has all to learn. He has exhausted now life's surface acts. His being's hidden realms remain to explore. He becomes a mind. He becomes a spirit and self. In his fragile tenement, he grows nature's Lord. In him, matter wakes from its long, obscure trance. In him, earth feels the Godhead drawing near. Man is a seeker, an insatiate seeker, who cannot be satisfied. He has to learn everything. He has everything to learn. And perhaps at our present level, we have exhausted the surface of nature, the surface activity of nature, of life. But our inner subjective life, our psychology, our emotions, his being's hidden realms remain to explore, to find our inner being, our true center, our soul and spirit. In the course of evolution, man becomes a mind, he becomes a spirit and self. In his fragile tenement, in this fragile, temporary house of the body that we live in, still man has become the leading species here on our world. He's become the lord of nature. In human beings, matter has woken up from its long, obscure trance of unconsciousness and ignorance, or half-ignorance. In man, earth, the earth spirit, the earth goddess, feels that greater Godhead drawing near, approaching. Humanity is on the way to some realization of divinity. Earth feels that, longs for him to succeed. You want to read another sentence, Martin?
An eyeless power that sees no more its aim, a restless, hungry energy of will. Life cast her seed in the body's ignorant mold. It woke from happy torpor, the blind force, compelling it to sense and seek and feel.
So, life is an eyeless power, the fallen life. No? Can no longer see its purpose and its aim. The aim of life is delight, actually. It's just become a restless, hungry energy of will, of wanting and needing. Life has cast her seed into the body's indolent mold. Indolent, lazy, full of inertia. And mold has two meanings. It can mean also the soil, the earth where we plant our seeds. No? So that seed that she's planted in matter wakes up a blind force that was happily asleep in a heavy, like a drugged coma, but it was a happy torpor. No? It's this blind force has woken up, and now it's compelled to experience the world around it. It's compelled to go on seeking and searching. It's compelled to feel not only sensations, but also emotions. Nidish?
In the enormous labor of the void, perturbing with her dreams the vast routine and dead roll of a slumbering universe, the mighty prisoner struggled for release. Alive with a yearning woke the inner self. In the heart she kindled a fire of passion and need. Amid the deep calm of inanimate things arose a great voice of toil and prayer and strife.
It's a wonderful picture, no? The whole material universe, it's just moving on, asleep. No? But now here is the life force, mighty prisoner, struggling to escape. Biologists try to explain what was the combination of elements and circumstances that have allowed life to emerge from matter. It's somehow clear that the potential for life was there, no? Imprisoned. That is how he's described her, imprisoned in matter. They think of the circumstances in which life was created, but it's much more the circumstances in which life was released. And I think somebody has done done experiments, or a group of people have done experiments. Yeah, if we put all together all the necessary inorganic elements and water and what can we do to make life appear? And they found that if they add lightning, if they add an electric force to the mixture, then suddenly there's an emergence of tiny organic things. So that's that force that has come, that energy. So, because of that longing of life, the cells woke up. Even hearts. She kindled a fire of passion and need. Amid the deep calm of inanimate things, that harmony of matter, arose her great voice of toil and prayer and strife. I think we'll stop there today. A quivering, trepidant, uncertain world, born from that dolorous meeting and eclipse, appeared in the emptiness where her feet had trod. A quick obscurity, a seeking stir. There was a writhing of half-conscious force, hardly awakened from the inconscient sleep, tied to an instinct-driven ignorance, to find itself and find its hold on things. Inheritor of poverty and loss, assailed by memories that fled when seized, haunted by a forgotten, uplifting hope, it strove with a blindness as of groping hands to fill the aching and disastrous gap between earth pain and the bliss from which life fell. A world that ever seeks for something missed, hunts for the joy that earth has failed to keep. Too near to our gates, its unappeased unrest, for peace to live on the inert solid globe. It has joined its hunger to the hunger of earth. It has given the law of craving to our lives. It has made our spirits need a fathomless gulf. An influence entered mortal night and day. A shadow overcast the time-born race. In the troubled stream where leaps a blind heart pulse, and the nerve beat of feeling wakes in sense, dividing matter's sleep from conscious mind, there strayed a call that knew not why it came. A power beyond earth's scope has touched the earth. The repose that might have been can be no more. A formless yearning passions in man's heart. A cry is in his blood for happier things. Else could he roam on a free sunlit soil with the childlike pain-forgetting mind of beasts, or live happy, unmoved like flowers and trees. The might that came upon the earth to bless has stayed on earth to suffer and aspire. The infant laugh that rang through time is hushed. Man's natural joy of life is overcast, and sorrow is his nurse of destiny. The animal's thoughtless joy is left behind. Care and reflection burden his daily walk. He has risen to greatness and to discontent. He is awake to the invisible. Insatiate seeker, he has all to learn. He has exhausted now life's surface acts. His being's hidden realms remain to explore. He becomes a mind, he becomes a spirit and self. In his fragile tenement he grows nature's lord. In him matter wakes from its long, obscure trance. In him earth feels the Godhead drawing near. An eyeless power that sees no more its aim, a restless, hungry energy of will. Life cast her seed in the body's indolent mould. It woke from happy torpor, a blind force, compelling it to sense and seek and feel. In the enormous labor of the void, perturbing with her dreams the vast routine and dead roll of a slumbering universe, the mighty prisoner struggled for release. Alive with her yearning, woke the inert cell. In the heart she kindled a fire of passion and need. Amid the deep calm of inanimate things arose her great voice of toil and prayer and strife.